You imagine kings and queens in glittering palaces, bathed in light and luxury. But step closer, and the truth will make your stomach turn. Their breath could knock you unconscious, their wigs crawled with lice, and their beauty masks were made of poison. Welcome to the filthy reality of royal life, where crowns hid rot, and perfume was war against decay. Section 1. Entering the Golden Halls. You step through bronze-clad gates taller than a cathedral steeple, their hinges groaning like an ancient beast. Ahead lies the fabled palace of Emperor Alaric IV, the jewel of the Western kingdoms, whispered about in every tavern from the Baltic marshes to the sun-scorched coasts of Iberia. The marble floor is so polished you can see your face in it, ghost-like, stretched by candlelight from 1,000 chandeliers. The scent of roses, amber resin, and clove smoke lingers heavily in the air, woven into tapestries that line the walls, tapestries depicting saints and battles long lost to memory. Courtiers drift past you in silks heavy enough to break a mule's back, their jewels catching the firelight like drops of frozen lightning. Their voices rise and fall like the rustling of wind through a forest of glass, laughter trained and delicate, gestures calculated to display the maximum splendor of rings and cuffs. You draw in a deep breath, expecting the intoxicating perfume of paradise, only to flinch. Something is wrong. Very wrong. The fragrance that first struck you as sweet now cloys, like honey rotting under summer flies. Beneath the roses and amber lies another scent, a sickly undercurrent that prickles your eyes and clutches at the back of your throat. At first you tell yourself it's the kitchen's, perhaps a barrel of spoiled wine. But then it hits you harder. This is human stench, cleverly suffocated beneath oceans of perfume. Sweat unwashed for weeks. Breath soured by teeth rotting in noble skulls. Flesh dusted with powders to disguise sores. A lady in sapphire brocade drifts past, her pearl earrings brushing her shoulders. She nods regally, but her breath, when she parts her lips, wafts toward you like the exhaust of a charnel house. A lord bows in return, his hair powdered silver white, but you notice something squirming at the edge of his collar, a tiny louse dropping to the floor. This is no fairy tale. This is not the gilded world sung by poets. This is the real royal court, where power sits upon a throne upholstered in filth, and where the price of beauty is poison. Do not stare too long, murmurs a servant near you, eyes darting nervously. You'll see more than you wish. Section 2. The Empress's Cleansing. The great bronze doors of the inner chamber close with a sonorous clang, leaving you in the dim light of a room perfumed to suffocation. Here, in the private sanctum of Empress Seraphina of Huldrast, the monthly cleansing ritual is about to begin. 20 servants scurry like ants, hauling steaming buckets of water from the kitchens below. Fires had burned since midnight, consuming entire forests just to boil enough for a single bath. The water sloshes into a tub carved of cedar, lined with silk cloth to protect imperial skin from splinters. But the water cools before the last bucket arrives, leaving the bath lukewarm. A disappointment whispered about only when the Empress cannot hear. You see her now. Seraphina, ruler of half a continent, draped in golden robes so heavy 2 maids must hold them at her shoulders. Her face is as pale as marble, but not from nature. It is layered with ceruse, a white paste of vinegar and lead applied day after day until it has become not makeup, but a mask. When she disrobes, you stifle a gasp. Beneath the silk, her flesh is a patchwork of white crust and yellow sores, streaks where old paint has cracked like a parched riverbed. The ladies in waiting avoid her gaze, whispering prayers as if to apologize for what they must witness. Attend me, Seraphina commands, her voice thin, reedy. Do not keep me waiting. She lowers herself into the tub. Instantly, the clear water clouds into gray, then black, as months of sweat, paint, and oils dissolve. The stench rises, metallic, vinegar-sharp, underpinned by something far worse, the musk of rotting flesh. One servant drops a cloth into the water, gagging silently, and another nudges her sharply in the ribs. Do not betray your disgust. Seraphina closes her eyes. Ah, she exhales. The waters of purity. But her serenity is a lie. Her scalp twitches beneath her elaborate wig, crawling with lice. Her breath is rank, her gums swollen and bleeding. When she smiles faintly at her reflection in a silver mirror, you notice teeth blacken like charred wood. "Paint me anew," she says after a long silence, lifting her face. "The mask must never be broken. The empire depends on it." The maid nears you, bows and whispers, "Yes, Majesty." Already she stirs another bowl of white poison, ready to spread fresh death across skin still raw from the bath. Section 3. The Mask of Death. The Empress sits upright in a carved oak chair draped with crimson velvet. Servants hover around her like anxious moths, bowls and brushes trembling in their hands. The chamber smells faintly of vinegar and roses, but underneath, always, the sour metallic tang of lead. Her wig, removed, reveals a scalp pocked with angry sores, dotted with dried blood where her real hair has fallen away in clumps. The ladies-in-waiting glance only briefly before lowering their eyes. To stare too long is dangerous. One maid, younger than the rest, makes the mistake of crossing herself. Seraphina notices. "Do not curse my beauty with your gestures, girl," she hisses, voice brittle as glass. "Do you think I am cursed?" The maid falters. "And no, Majesty." "Then paint," the Empress commands, tilting her chin skyward. A brush, dipped in the thick white paste of vinegar and powdered lead, scrapes across her cheek. The sound is faint but sickening, like plaster smearing across stone. Old layers are not removed. Washing with plain water is forbidden, believed to weaken the humors. Instead, new poison is layered upon the old, building a mask so thick that fine cracks spread across it as she speaks. "Thicker," Seraphina mutters. "I see blemishes yet." "Yes, Majesty," whispers another servant, dabbing with nervous precision. As the mask grows heavier, her features stiffen. The once vivacious ruler now looks more like a statue than a woman, her face frozen in pallid stillness. And yet she smiles faintly at her reflection. "Do you see?" she says to no one in particular. "They look upon me and see the face of an angel." One chamberlain, bold enough to answer, bows deeply. "The Empire sees you as divine, Majesty." But whispers run in the corridors. Courtiers murmur about her fits of rage, her memory lapses, her laughter that rises suddenly in the middle of solemn audiences. They blame the weight of rulership, the burden of empire. None dare say aloud what they suspect, that the very pain preserving her beauty is hollowing her mind. A sudden crash. Seraphina hurls her mirror against the wall. It shatters, shards scattering across the floor. "Liars!" she shrieks. "You hide the truth from me." Her chest heaves, her painted face cracking further. "Tell me, am I not the most beautiful creature alive?" The servants fall to their knees. "Yes, Majesty." "Always." The Empress's breathing steadies. She wipes trembling fingers across her painted cheek, smearing the mask, then laughs softly. "Good. Then let us receive the ambassadors." And so she rises, repoisoned, reperfumed, a walking effigy of beauty concealing rot. Section 4. The Crawling Court. The hall of petitions gleams beneath crystal chandeliers, each candle mirrored 100-fold in polished bronze. Musicians play a gentle lute accompaniment, their fingers trembling slightly, not from nerves, but from the crawling itch that spreads across the entire palace like wildfire. You notice it immediately. Nobles stand in their finery, stiff as statues, but their eyes dart constantly, hands twitching against their gowns and breeches. A woman in emerald velvet shifts uncomfortably, her jeweled fingers clutching a thin ivory stick. She slides it discreetly into the towering nest of her powdered hair and scratches. When she withdraws it, something tiny and brown wriggles against the claw before she flicks it away, still smiling demurely at the courtiers around her. Lord Helvar, Master of the Treasury, leans toward his rival during the ceremony. His words are polite enough, but his movements betray him. He digs his fingers behind his collar, scratching furiously while trying not to break his courtly bow. "Fine evening," he mutters, jaw clenched. "Indeed," his rival replies, though his wig twitches visibly as something shifts beneath it. Etiquette dictates composure at all times. Yet the hall rustles not only with silks but with the faint sound of scratching. Hands sliding across thighs, claws probing beneath wigs, nails raking discreetly under sleeves. It is the unspoken chorus of infestation. The lice have become so numerous that they spread simply from sitting on a velvet chair, leaning against a tapestry, or brushing sleeves with another noble. Carpets are alive with them. They crawl across banquet tables, scattering from beneath golden plates. One servant whispers near you, "Do not touch the draperies. They fall upon you from there." But worse than the crawling are the consequences. Typhus has begun its march. 2 generals, strong men once, now lie delirious in their chambers, raving about battles long past. A chambermaid was found dead last week, her body covered with red blotches. Yet the court goes on. Ambassadors arrive, treaties are signed, masks of composure remain firmly in place, even as parasites gnaw beneath the wigs and gowns. "Your Majesty," calls the herald, "the Empress approaches." All fall to their knees as Seraphina enters, her poison mask freshly painted, her hair crowned with jeweled pins. She glides past them with serene dignity. But as she pauses to greet a noble, you see her flinch, just slightly, as something shifts beneath her powdered curls. No one dares notice. Section 5. The Perfumed Battlefield. The court of Seraphina is a place where the air itself is weaponized. Step into the hall of mirrors and the first thing you notice is not the gilding, not the endless reflections, but the suffocating haze of perfume, so thick you feel as though you are walking through liquid. Courtiers dab musk upon their throats, civet oil behind their ears, ambergris rubbed into the seams of their gloves. Ladies carry pomanders of silver filigree, dangling from their belts, stuffed with herbs and scented wax. Men press handkerchiefs steeped in rosewater to their lips whenever they must stand too close to another noble. "Better to faint from the sweetness," one lady whispers to another, "than to breathe the truth. The truth lies beneath, the rot of teeth, the stench of unwashed skin, the sickly sweetness of wounds dressed not with balm but with powder and oil. Perfume does not erase the odor, it layers upon it, creating a miasma of contradictions. Rose upon sweat. Musk upon pus. Jasmine upon spoiled meat. Ambassadors gag silently during banquets, their eyes watering. Yet they smile, for to show disgust would be political suicide. The nobles, too, play their parts, turning scent into subtle games. Lady Ermine, widow of 3 husbands, arrives drenched in clove oil so thick that her passage is marked by a trail of spice. It is a statement: she is untouchable, overpowering, her stench a wall between herself and any who would challenge her. Lord Detrain counters with violet essence so sharp it cuts through her cloud like steel. Their rivalry is fought not with swords, but with perfumes so strong the servants retch behind tapestries. Even Seraphina participates. Her gloves are soaked in amber resin, her wigs dusted with powdered roses. When she raises her hand in greeting, courtiers bend to kiss it, and stagger back, their eyes stinging from the overwhelming scent. Yet perfume brings paranoia. A noblewoman once fainted during an audience, her pomander slipping from her hand. Rumors spread like wildfire. Had her rival laced her sachet with poison? Was the fragrance itself a weapon? From then on, each noble examined their scents with suspicion. Perfume became not only a mask but a threat, every whiff carrying the possibility of betrayal. The irony is cruel. These nobles choke themselves with scents to hide the truth, yet the very mixture of oils and unwashed skin creates odors far worse than the natural stench. Still, the court persists. To smell plain, to smell human, would be social suicide. As the musicians play and the candles burn, the air grows heavier, thicker, until you feel you are drowning in invisible waters of rot and roses. And still Seraphina smiles, the painted angel presiding over a court slowly asphyxiating on its own perfume. Section 6. The Privy Companion. If there is one role in Seraphina's court more envied and despised in equal measure, it is that of the Privy Companion. His official title sounds harmless, almost quaint, but his true duty is far more degrading. He is the keeper of the emperor's stool, the guardian of his most private moments, the man who kneels where no noble dares tread. His name is Edric of Weimar, a man of middling birth elevated higher than dukes and earls simply because he tends the body of Emperor Alaric IV. At dawn, Edric carries the cedar chest, the close stool, lined with velvet, studded with brass rivets, fitted with a chamber pot within. He follows the emperor into his private chamber, where Alaric lowers himself, groaning beneath the weight of his swollen belly. The smell is immediate, suffocating, but Edric breathes through his mouth, bowing low. He waits, linen cloths folded neatly at his side. "You will note," the emperor mutters between grunts, "that the venison from last night's feast has soured my gut. Inform the physicians. No more haunch for a fortnight." "Yes, Majesty." Edric's voice is steady, reverent. He scribbles the note in a small ledger. He has dozens of these records, the emperor's bowels, their consistencies, their changes. This, more than any council chamber, reveals the true health of the empire. When the emperor is finished, Edric steps forward. He does what no general, no minister, no courtier could stomach. He cleans. He wipes. He ensures the emperor's dignity is preserved. And while he does, Alaric speaks freely. Here, in this chamber that stinks of waste, treaties are decided, wars declared, lives ended with a nod. "Tell Seraphina," the emperor growls, "that I will not endure another ambassador prattling about tariffs. If she insists, I'll have the man drowned in his own silks." "Yes, Majesty," Edric murmurs again, folding the soiled cloth away with ritual precision. It is a grotesque intimacy. Edric knows every sore upon the emperor's thighs, every fissure, every hidden wound. He can predict his moods from the state of his digestion. He knows when Alaric is weakest, when pain forces him to clutch the stool and groan like a dying ox. And that knowledge is power. Lords bow to Edric in the hallways, desperate for whispers from the stool chamber. He has seen nobles fall, entire houses ruined, because Edric mentioned a secret, a groan, a muttered confession made while the emperor strained. Yet behind his steady face lies horror. Each morning he kneels in human filth. Each evening he scrubs the stool until his hands bleed, the stench never leaving his clothes. But he cannot show disgust. He cannot flinch. His family now wears fine silks, owns lands, dines beside dukes, all because he serves as the emperor's human toilet paper. And so Edric bows, as Alaric rises, adjusting his stained robes. The emperor sighs with relief. "See? No man is closer to me than you, Edric." The privy companion smiles faintly. "It is my greatest honor, Majesty." Section 7. The Heresy of Cleanliness. Beyond the gilded gates of Seraphina's palace, across the mountains and dry plains of the realm, another kind of horror takes root, one sanctified by faith itself. In the kingdom of Avarath, cleanliness is not admired. It is condemned. Here reigns Queen Uriah, devout to the marrow, who has decreed that bathing is a temptation of the flesh, a corruption of the soul. To cleanse the skin, she proclaimed in her coronation sermon, is to strip away the soil of God's design. Dirt is divine armor. To wash is to rebel against heaven. The doctrine spreads like wildfire. Priests thunder from pulpits that soap is a tool of demons, that water lures the spirit into sin. Clean skin is whispered proof of secret heresy. Picture the consequences. A mother in a stone village, trying to bathe her feverish child in a wooden basin, hears the knock of inquisitors at her door. They barge inside, sniffing the air for soap, feeling the child's freshly washed skin. "Proof," they declare. Within hours, the woman is dragged into the square, accused of practicing the hidden faith of water, and burned alive. Even the rivers fall silent. Once places of laughter and ritual cleansing, they now stand empty. Villagers who draw too much water are interrogated. Neighbors spy on neighbors. Children betray their parents in exchange for holy favor. One survivor's words, scratched into the margin of a smuggled book, still chill the blood. "They came at dawn. My brother's clothes were too clean. They said his shirt was the work of Satan. They hanged him by the well where he drew the water." When explorers from Avarath sail to distant lands, they encounter people who bathe daily, indigenous tribes whose health and vitality put Europeans to shame. Queen Uria's envoys report back with horror. They wash as if possessed. They worship water more than Christ. Their souls are surely damned. Orders follow swiftly, force them to abandon their cleansing rituals. Destroy their baths. Replace purity with dirt. The results are catastrophic. Epidemics sweep through conquered villages. Children die of fevers that a simple washing might have prevented. Priests, robed in rags stiff with filth, preach that their deaths are blessings, that the closer they come to decay, the closer they walk with God. And so, an entire civilization twists itself into a knot of self-destruction, where filth is sanctity, disease is devotion, and the mere scent of soap is enough to condemn a family to death. Section 8. The Countess's Milk. In the northern province of Velthros lives Countess Meloria, a woman once famed for her beauty, now ravaged by disease. Her once bright eyes leak pus, her lips crack and bleed, her skin is pitted with sores that never heal. Whispers say it is the plague of lust, a sickness born of her countless lovers. Others claim God himself cursed her vanity. Meloria, however, believes she has found a cure. Each dawn, her servants pour dozens of pails of fresh goat's milk into a copper tub. The bath is steaming, fragrant, almost luxurious, but when she lowers herself in, the scene becomes ghastly. Her diseased flesh weeps into the milk. Yellow pus seeps from sores, streaking the white liquid with ribbons of filth. Clumps of skin slew off, floating like curdled cream. The stench is unbearable, sweet rot, mingled with sour dairy, but her ladies-in-waiting stand silently, gagging behind perfumed cloths pressed to their mouths. Ah! Meloria sighs, leaning back, eyes half closed. The milk of mercy. It soothes my fire. She believes the milk draws out her sickness. And when she rises, dripping, she orders it ladled into clay jars. Servants carry them to the village below, where starving peasants wait in lines that snake through the mud. To them, this gift is salvation. A jar of milk could mean the difference between life and death for their children. They bow, kiss the jars, bless the Countess's name. They do not see the tiny scabs floating inside. They do not know the milk has bathed her infected body. A farmer lifts a jar and whispers, "The Lady of Velthros is merciful indeed." His daughter, gaunt and hollow-eyed, drinks first. She licks her lips, smiles faintly. Hours later she is racked with fever. Days later she is dead. Still the Countess continues. Each bath, each gift, spreads her disease further, poisoning the very people she claims to bless. In her mind, she is a saint, offering comfort to the needy. In truth, she is a plague disguised as charity. One servant, unable to bear the sight, once dared to whisper, "My lady, the milk is tainted. You give them death." Meloria's eyes blazed with fury. "Fool! I give them my essence. To drink of me is to share in my nobility. Would you deny them that honor?" The servant was flogged and cast into the snow. The next morning, the line of peasants returned, still eager for their jars of poison. Section 9. The Towers of Vermin. In Empress Seraphina's court, beauty is not only painted on the face, it is constructed upon the head. The women of the palace wear hairstyles so elaborate they scrape doorways, towers of curls and braids built from wire frames, horsehair, and human locks purchased from peasants too poor to refuse. To hold these monstrosities together, the stylists slather the natural hair with bear fat, ox grease, and resin, until it gleams wetly under candlelight. Then comes the powder, chalk, starch, or sometimes even crushed bone, to give it the fashionable ghostly white sheen. Jewels are pinned into the mass. Silk ribbons cascade down its sides. Some even build tiny gardens into their heads, wax flowers, golden birds, porcelain figurines perched upon their crowns like shrines. The effect is dazzling. From afar, the court looks like a parade of living statues, heads shining like marble towers. But come closer, and you see the truth. The grease, rancid within days, becomes a feast for vermin. Lice swarm by the thousands, burrowing into warm hair, laying eggs that hatch within hours. Fleas nestle into the sticky fat. Ticks cling stubbornly to scalps, drawing blood. Worse still, rats have been known to crawl into sleeping women's hair to nibble at the fat, scratching and biting until screams echo through the palace. "Stand still, my lady," says one stylist, sliding a long silver pick into Lady Therolin's hair. The pick emerges writhing with lice. He flicks them into the fire, where they crackle and pop. She does not flinch. To acknowledge the crawling would be to admit weakness. At banquets, women carry scratching sticks carved from ivory, dainty little claws disguised as ornaments. They slide them delicately into their hair, scratching furiously beneath the layers, while maintaining serene smiles. "So charming!" murmurs a duke as Lady Elvira withdraws her jeweled stick. He does not notice the tiny insect tumbling onto his wine. The hairstyles are not dismantled nightly. They take hours, sometimes days, to build. A woman may wear the same coiffure for weeks, sleeping upright to preserve it. By then, the grease has turned black with dirt, the powder clumped with sweat, the scalp beneath a battlefield of sores and bites. Some women lose their hair entirely, bald patches hidden by wigs so heavy they strain the neck. And yet, the competition never ceases. The higher, the more elaborate, the more crawling, the better. One night during a feast, a louse falls from Lady Marybelle's crown onto the Empress's own gown. A hush spreads across the hall. Seraphina looks down, plucks the insect calmly between two painted nails, and crushes it without a word. Then she smiles at Marybelle and says sweetly, "How fortunate that vermin prefer noble blood!" The hall erupts in laughter, though every head itches at once. Section 10. The Palace of Filth. The Palace of Haldrast is hailed across the known world as a marvel of architecture, a glittering fortress of marble and gold. Travelers write breathless verses about its endless corridors, its mirrors that multiply candlelight into eternity, its gardens where fountains splash like liquid diamonds. But the visitors never stay long enough to know the truth. The palace is home to nearly 9,000 souls, nobles, servants, guards, cooks, musicians, petitioners, ambassadors. Yet for all its splendor, it possesses only a handful of latrines, most broken or clogged by years of neglect. The result? Waste has nowhere to go. Corridors reek of urine. Nobles, too refined to walk far, simply relieve themselves in corners, behind tapestries, even in the alcoves of chapels. Women squat discreetly beneath the layers of their gowns, puddles spreading silently across marble floors as they smile and nod in conversation. Men lean casually over balconies, sending golden streams onto courtyards below, where gardeners curse under their breath as they prune roses. At night, servants fling chamber pots out of windows into courtyards already thick with human waste. More than once, a courtier has been struck mid-promenade. One chronicler recalls Duke Lauren, powdered wig soaked in feces as he escorted a foreign princess. The princess fainted. The duke, humiliated, later hanged himself in his chamber. The smell is indescribable. Perfume cannot cover it. Musk and rose oil only make it worse, mingling with ammonia and rot until the very air feels thick, chewable. Guests from distant lands have written of collapsing during audiences, overwhelmed by the miasma. Physicians call it bad air, never grasping that it is not air but the court itself that is poisonous. Even the kitchens are not safe. Pipes of lead and iron, corroded by years of misuse, often leak waste directly into the hearths and pans. Once, a stew prepared for the empress bubbled with black liquid from a cracked drain above. The servants, terrified of punishment, served it anyway. Half the banquet fell ill, but no one dared speak of the source. Children of the nobility learned to walk dodging puddles of excrement. They play hide and seek among corridors where human waste drips from ceilings. They grow up believing filth is normal, that civilization itself is built upon rot. And yet, when foreign envoys arrive, the palace shines. Rugs are hastily scrubbed with wine. Perfume is dumped into basins and burned so the smoke cloaks the stench. Candles are doubled, mirrors polished until they gleam. The envoys bow, dazzled, never realizing their silken shoes are already steeped in piss. It is a deception as vast as the empire itself, beauty above, rot below. And no one embodies it better than Seraphina, who smiles from her throne, painted and perfumed, while rivers of filth flow unseen beneath her palace floor. Section 11. The Gilded Prison. Step back from the jeweled gowns, the marble halls, the chandeliers blazing with 1,000 candles. Step back from the powdered wigs crawling with vermin, the perfumes that choke the lungs, the poison masks of paint that eat into the skin. Step back even from the empress herself, serene in her ruin, ruling while her body rots beneath its porcelain armor. What remains? Not splendor. Not divinity. But the raw truth: these were people, trapped in cages of gold and filth. The courtiers who bowed with perfect grace were itching until their skin bled. The ladies who dazzled in silks carried lice colonies in their crowns. The kings who thundered commands on the battlefield groaned like broken men upon their stools, relying on trembling attendants to preserve their dignity. They were not fairy tale rulers. They were human beings, suffocating in palaces that glittered above but festered below, trapped by customs too strong to break, by vanity too cruel to resist, by doctrines that turned water into sin and poison into beauty. Their legacy is not merely the wars they waged or the empires they built. It is also this, the hidden history of suffering. The endless scratching in the night. The stink that seeped into every banquet and chapel. The slow deaths delivered by powders, paints, and perfumes. And perhaps most haunting of all, the way they endured. They smiled. They ruled. They passed laws, signed treaties, ordered executions, all while their own bodies betrayed them. When we think of crowns and thrones, of marble palaces and painted portraits, we see perfection. But behind every brushstroke of white paint was a sore. Behind every powdered wig was a nest of vermin. Behind every jeweled gown was a body reeking of rot. That is the true fairy tale: beauty on the surface, horror beneath. And when you leave these golden halls and return to your clean, perfumed world, remember this: the rulers of old did not live like gods. They lived like prisoners, chained not by iron, but by vanity, custom, and the filth of their own magnificence.